Hello and welcome to Martyn Lucas Investor. My name is Sensei and I'll be your host today for the Clarity Act hearing, starting in, as you can see on the time on the screen, 15 minutes time. Let's go through what to expect, the insider scoop, and then we'll go over to that live hearing. Again, the Clarity Act is the biggest catalyst for crypto this year, potentially ever. So we want to see, will it pass? When will it pass? What's today's events going to do to the probability of it passing? Senator Loomis saying next week. Some people saying never. We've got a window of opportunity. It's now or never. It's going to have to be in the next couple of weeks because after the August break, the senators are going to be away for their summer break. Then they're going to be campaigning. There's not going to be any time left for this to pass. So we need to get it through in the next couple weeks. And then after the midterms, you can expect there to not be enough support to get it through in the current way it is. So it is now or never. If you have just tuned in, the first thing I'll ask you to do is hit that like button. It takes absolutely no time at all. 1 second. It's free. Please do hit the like button before we continue onto the show. I think if we get 100 likes, then we will start. So hit that like button. 30 minutes to go until the Clarity Act hearing. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. Check out sensei.news where you can get the daily newsletter and keep up to date with all of this. I saw a lot of you were watching SpaceX. I think Martyn's show was about SpaceX. So we will look at the SpaceX price action as well throughout the show, but also focusing on Bitcoin, XRP, crypto, as that's the focus of the Clarity Act. So without further ado, I can see the chat already rolling. Say hi in the chat if you are here. I want to see everyone's names in the chat. Let's go on to what to expect today. 2 minutes from New York Stock Exchange. In a hall where George Washington was sworn in as the first US president, Congress is making its case for the most important crypto law America has ever tried to pass. It's called the Clarity Act. The House has passed it. The Senate has only one window left, the next few weeks, before the August recess to get it over the line. After months of deadlock, the people running it suddenly sound ready. This is the bill that decides who regulates crypto in America and whether coins like Bitcoin and XRP are treated as commodities. Here is what's happening, who just said what, and everything we are watching. This is what we're going to come on to. We are going to skip the market watch because we are limited on time to get through some of the things I want to cover before we get on to the actual live hearing. I can see people's names rolling in. Hi, Sensei. Great show. Thank you, Nick. Tim Rogers. Trying to Evolve is here. John Grantford is here. XRP Bound is here. We've got the XRP army. Hey, do you think we'll live stream the Clarity hearing? Yeah, I'm going to live stream it. It's going to be right on the show. You don't need to go anywhere. We are going to bring it all to you. as well as a price action. So why does today matter? So today is about pressure and timing. The Senate is in session for 4 straight weeks before the August break, the last realistic window to pass the clarity this year. Miss it and the bill drifts towards 2027 and midterm elections. Nothing is voted on at the federal hall. So we're not expecting a vote, but we are expecting the odds of it going through to change based off what happens in the hearing. This is the industry's closing argument in public and on camera as senators decide whether to give it floor time. So depending on how well this goes, we will know, are we going to get a vote or not, a vote on this, and then I'll give you my thoughts on whether we get the vote and how likely it is to pass if we get the vote. So why are they doing it in New York? It's actually very interesting because the federal hall is sitting right on top of Wall Street's doorstep and the birthplace of American government, a made-for-camera setting that speaks to the banks and exchanges who would live under law and pressures the Senate. So yeah, so what I was trying to say here is it's actually interesting, the location, because it's very much, as I said, on Wall Street's doorstep. They want the final bit of approval from Wall Street, from the public, and they want to get these senators on board. So again, we're not going to get a vote, but we are going to see how likely it is going to pass based off this hearing. So a very important hearing with some very interesting people at attendance as well. Currently, where are we sat? So let me show you this on the screen. So first let me tell you what the bill does. So it divides the referees. This is very important because I've always said for the last 4 or 5 years, well, actually probably longer, regulation is good, over-regulation is bad, but the reason regulation is good is because it sets the law of the land, even if the regulation is not brilliant. If we have some sort of clarity, some sort of regulation, these sort of crypto companies, these innovation companies, these companies that are on the forefront of technology can have the rules of the land, and they can build their companies based off the regulation. Even if the regulation is not brilliant, companies are very good at being able to succeed, even if regulations aren't brilliant, because they will know where their boundaries are. Unfortunately, in the crypto world 5-10 years ago, we had no real regulation, so people were getting sued left, right, and center. There was no real clarity. We saw what happened with the Ripple case. They were abiding by the law the best they could, but there weren't any firm bits of regulation in place. And again, this is why Clarity Act is important. This is what the Genius Act is important, is because once they pass, companies in America can thrive. What does the bill actually do? Well, it divides the referees. So the CFTC will oversight digital commodities, unlike the SEC, like what they were doing. And then the SEC will focus on digital securities. It also sets a decentralization test for when a token stops being a security and becomes a commodity. Remember the different ways we were trying to prove this in court with Ripple. So that now there's going to be a very clear test, because remember the last test for securities was founded in like the 1800s and very hard to apply to crypto. But now there's going to be a set test to show what's a security, what's a commodity, and what's decentralized. Given exchange a rule book, so they're going to give platforms, brokers, custodians will get a federal path to register instead of regulation by lawsuit, which again we're all too familiar with if you're here in the XRP army. Guys, if you have just tuned in, we're 8 minutes away from the hearing. We're going to cover it live. Please do hit the like button. Please do subscribe if you haven't done so already. Say hi in the chat so I can see who's here. Where is it happening? So where are we right now? The Clarity Act. So it passed the House. That's the last Clarity Act coverage we did. The last live one. This is the most important one since the one that we're covering today. But the last time we covered it, we passed the House. 294 to 134. Very, very good. And that was that's when it passed the House. Then we did the Senate banking on the 14th of May. That's the one we covered live. And that was 15-9. So very good there as well. Now on the Senate calendar, awaiting a floor vote. This is the last step, and it is probably the hardest step. So you can see we've passed the House, we've passed the Senate committee. Now, next week is the week, I believe, that we might have the best shot of at least getting a vote. So next week could be the vote based off how well the hearing goes today. So we're watching the hearing today, waiting for the vote tomorrow, next week. I'm going to show you all the charts at the end of this live stream after the Clarity Act. I'm going to show you the XRP Breakout, what my plan is for Bitcoin. I'm going to tell you about the chart training course, all included for free. We're going to do giveaways in this stream, so stay with me. What we need to focus on first is that hearing. I'm going to analyze the hearing, tell you what my thoughts are, and then this could be the most important month in that crypto has ever seen. Right now, the three things blocking the Clarity Act are very simple. It's ethics, enforceable disclosure rules for officials that hold crypto. Essentially, the Democrats going after Trump for that. Let's see if we get wording changes. They can amend it. Let's see what they say about it today. Law enforcement, prosecutors want one section softened so it does not hamper criminal investigations. And number three is the stablecoin yield, where the platforms can pay interest-style yield without breaking last year's Genius Act deal. Those are the three things currently blocking it, and we'll find out more about that today. What are the insiders saying? Well, I watched an interview with Senator Lumez. I can't play it right now because we're limited on time. Yesterday. And so she is the chair of the Senate Digital Assets Subcommittee. She has been an advocate for crypto. She has been the one driving this act forward, and she's steering the bill. And she said new text lands within days after virtually every day for the last 10 months of work. So we're looking at the final text landing probably today. And then asked whether it returns to floor next week, she did not hedge. So she said, I expect it will be that week. So she is not beating around the bush. She is saying next week, she's expecting a floor vote of the Clarity Act. That is the week of the 20th of July. So this weekend, we could get that breakout on XRP going into the vote, where maybe we get a sell the news based off a failed vote. But we're not there yet. We need to take it step by step. Today is the hearing, and we'll see how likely this is. So next week, we'll be covering the vote if this goes well. So make sure you are subscribed. Make sure you are signed up to the newsletter. You can sign up to free. There's a free plan, and there's also an annual plan as well if you want to get all the perks and benefits for the premium plan. But you'll get all the roundups on that newsletter. On the sticking point, Senator Lumez confirmed that blind trusts are certainly on the table as the ethics fix with the aim of language both the Congress and the White House can live with. So we're looking at potentially an amendment there that will allow this to pass. Chairman French Hill argued that the ethics worry cuts the other way, past clarity, and things like meme coin insurances fall under real market framework, giving more transparency around the Trump family's holdings, not less. So there's arguments on both sides about this. Coinbase policy head Fahir Shirazad called the bill a dramatic advance in consumer protection, worth passing even without an ethics provision, and framed it as the law catching up to policy. Meanwhile, President Trump is publicly pressing Congress to pass it, with Bitcoin neared 65,000 after a cooler CPI. We covered inflation this week, and it was great. We are set up to do well in crypto right now. Only if the hearing goes well and only if that vote passes next week. We'll be covering all the news and everything you need to know about it over the period of today and next week live for you guys on this channel. So make sure you are subscribed. Have we got 100 likes yet? I'm giving you all the information. I'm going to cover this live. You don't need to go anywhere. But are you saying a little thank you by hitting the like button? Let me show you. Remember, I've got this live right now from the Federal Hall. So we'll come to this in a second. But I just want to check on the likes. I have a feeling we've got only around 100 likes. We've got 400. We've got a good audience. So thank you guys for tuning in. 450. Wow, we don't even have 100. Guys, there's 459 people watching this. Can we get to 250 likes? We should be able to. It takes 1 second. It's free. What is everyone doing? Please do hit the like button if you have just tuned in. We are minutes away now, about 2 minutes away from covering this. If we don't have 250 likes, maybe I just don't cover it. We'll see. But I'm sure you guys can get us up there. Guys, hit the like button. We're on 122 now. We're nowhere near our target of 250. We should be at 250 likes already. There's so many of you who are just being lazy and not hitting the like button. What's going on? It takes a second. 135 likes. Let's see that jump to 200 before we continue. 146. We're not there yet. Thank you for whoever has hit the like button. I really appreciate it. But there's some people spoiling the show for everyone. Why are people not hitting the like button yet? 160. We're nearly there. Let's continue. Some people might be behind. That's why they might not be there. maybe I just won't cover it if you do. Yeah, maybe I won't. No, I'm joking. I'll cover it. I'm very interested in this, and this is a very important event, so I'll definitely be covering it, even if we had 0 likes. I'll read. Will the clarity pass? The insiders now sound more confident than the betting markets. Loomis expects a floor vote. So this is, again, moving on to the insider scoop before we come on to the Act Live. The insiders now sound more confident than the betting markets. Senator Loomis expects a floor vote within days. Prediction markets still put a 2026 passage near 43%, down from the 70% earlier this week. Someone is wrong. Is it the senator or is it the betting market? Well, it's probably between the two. The vote exists in principle. Last year, the Senate passed the Genius Act stablecoin law 68 to 70 with 18 Democrats. Clarity only needs 7 to 9 Democrats to reach the 60. That's the 60 will vote. Will less Democrats than last time come over? It doesn't need as many. But my read is it can be. I do think it's better than the betting market odds. I think it's lower than what Senator Loomis is saying. I think there's a 50% chance. And again, that will change based off the Clarity Act hearing today on if it will. But we'll come on to that later in the show, as well as the XRP chart, the Bitcoin charts as well. So today, again, I'm watching for witnesses giving a clean, quotable answer on ethics that the Senate office can like. Let's see what they say about the ethics. If it all turns about a Trump fight and crypto ties, then we could have problems. We want to hear the panel say bipartisan because 60 Senate votes need Democrats. This should be a bipartisan thing. Let's see how bipartisan it makes it sound in the hearing. And also, there's big names like WisdomTree and Bullish at this event speaking, testifying. And let's see if they're committing to building and hiring in the US, because if they are, Democrats will like that even more, and that might bring them over. So yeah, let's go over to it because that's starting any second now. And again, I have got more information to show you after the event in regards to the XRP chart, the Bitcoin chart, and then throughout the event, we will be coming on to each of these people that are speaking. Sarah, Randy from Bullish, Sarah from Nova Labs, Ryan from WisdomTree. Again, a lot of the XRP ETF example, and Jason from Coin Center. We've got these people speaking, and again, this will have an effect on the crypto prices live. But more importantly, whether the vote will go through next week or not depends on how well this hearing occurs today. So here we go.
The Subcommittee on Digital Assets, Financial Technology, and Artificial
Let's
Intelligence will come
Please
to
hit the like button, subscribe,
objection, the chair is
and check out the
to
newsletter.
Recess of the committee at any time. Today's hearing is titled "Building the Future of Finance: How the Clarity Act Unlocks Innovation." Without objection, all members will have 5 legislative days within which to submit additional material for the chair to include in the record. I now recognize myself for 4 minutes for an opening statement. In America's 250th year, on the site of the building of the first Congress, and 1 year to the day after the House of Representatives passed the Clarity Act, we gather amongst the pillars of history. For 250 years, American markets have powered innovation and economic growth. And each time technology and financial innovation leapt forward, Congress met the moment. We did not stop the engines of growth. We gave them clear, consistent rules so they could run. Right here in this building, the very first Congress debated Alexander Hamilton's revolutionary vision for a national financial system, including a plan to turn state war debts into the first federal government bonds, backed by the full faith and credit of our new nation. 100 years later, as a patchwork of paper notes and counterfeit flooded the states, Congress stepped in again. The National Bank Act swept away the chaos of wildcat banking and created the first American dollar bills we carry in our pockets to this day. In the next century, when opaque and disorderly markets ruined millions, Congress passed the Securities and Exchange Act to restore transparency and increase the public trust. Consistency and clarity conquered chaos. Today, we're here on Wall Street again. We gather at the threshold of the next generation of innovation. As the Senate prepares to consider the Clarity Act, we can complete nearly a decade of work. Since 2017, the House Committee on Financial Services, alongside our colleagues at the Committee on Agriculture, have worked to craft a durable framework for digital assets that fosters innovation while protecting consumers and investors. Our goal is clear: replace regulation by enforcement with clear rules of the road for digital assets.
That's what we want.
For 250 years, America has led the world in financial innovation. For 15 years, blockchain technology has redefined what's possible. For 10 years, Congress has worked to write the rules of this new financial frontier. And for 1 year, we've had a statutory framework for payment stablecoins. Now, it's our turn to meet the moment. Today, we'll hear from experts who are building the next generation of financial innovation, and we'll hear from them on why they believe the Clarity Act is essential. I thank all of our witnesses for being here today, and I thank my colleagues for making the trip up to New York for this important discussion. I think it's our opportunity to unlock the next 250 years of innovation here in the United States of America. It's time to pass clarity. I yield back, and I now recognize the chairman of the full committee, Chairman French Hill, for 1 minute for his opening statement.
Well, Chairman Sal, thank you for convening this hearing in historic Federal Hall, such an incredible place to be in our semi-quincentennial, and as you say, echo the success that Congress has had in spurring innovation and economic growth here for 250 years. Our leadership in finance and technology depends on clear, predictable rules. That's been at the heart of financial oversight throughout our nation's history. 1 year ago today, we passed the Clarity Act and also saw Genius enacted into law. If we want to have the ultimate success in our economy and see the transition of a traditional finance on an analog basis to a distributed ledger blockchain basis, the country has to have the rules to make the U.S. the center of that digital ecosystem in the world. This is President Trump's goal. This was the work behind Genius and Clarity last year. So we stand ready to help our Senate colleagues complete the work and get it to the President's desk. And I thank you for convening the hearing, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Today we welcome the testimony of 4 distinguished witnesses. We have Ms. Sarah Aberg, Chief Legal Officer at Nova Labs. We have Ms. Randy Abernathy, Head of Clearing and Group Risk at Bullish. Ryan Lovar, Chief Legal Officer at WisdomTree. And Jason Somensato, the Director of Policy at Coin Center. We thank each of you for taking the time to be here. Each of you will be recognized for 5 minutes to give an oral presentation. Without objection, your written statements will be made part of the record. Ms. Aberg, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman Steele, Chairman Hill, and members of the subcommittee. Thanks for the opportunity to testify. My name is Sarah Aberg. I am the Chief Legal Officer of Nova Labs, the company that created and supports the Helium network, the world's largest decentralized wireless network. Helium is a physical telecommunications infrastructure, wireless access points deployed in communities across the country that provide real coverage to real people every day. Blockchain is the technology that makes the network run, and cryptocurrency is the incentive that built it. Today, that network is more than 140,000 hotspots. It provides carrier-grade offload to major carriers, including T-Mobile and AT&T, and serves millions of American users every day. Nova Labs provides telecommunication services in all 50 states and holds an FCC Section 214 authorization. The Helium network has been operating.
She's a bit quiet. I'm going to try and bring her up in volume, but it's not brilliant, their volume. So I'm going to bring it up. She's talking from the Helium network. You might have heard of the crypto project, the Helium project. So let me try and bring the volume up, and let's go back to her now.
Because a token reward made it worthwhile. Compensation for verified wireless service measured and paid automatically by the protocol. That model has proven itself under pressure. When Hurricane Helene knocked out cellular service across Western North Carolina, Helium and the veteran-led nonprofit Team Rubicon deployed portable beacons on satellite backhaul and reconnected tens of thousands of devices within days. In Redondo Beach, California, a waterfront district had near zero cell coverage for years because high-rise buildings blocked the signal before it reached the pier. The city closed that gap simply by enabling helium offload on Wi-Fi it already had. No new hardware, no capital expense, and now it connects more than 2,000 people a day. The helium network has also absorbed cellular surges during major events like Mardi Gras and Super Bowl weekend. It is being used to improve indoor 911 location accuracy, where the FCC's own data shows that today, fewer than 1% of wireless 911 calls deliver a usable, dispatchable location, and to bring affordable broadband into public housing. These are public benefits built by communities investing in themselves. I want to be direct about why I am here. In January of last year, on the last business day before the new administration took office, the SEC sued Nova Labs. Its theory was that selling hotspots that rewarded deployers in tokens for delivering verified wireless coverage was an unregistered securities offering. It went further, alleging that our mobile phone plan, a phone plan, was also an unregistered offering because subscribers could opt into
the last day with Gary
helping
Gensler.
map
Look what he
coverage.
does to innovation
Each
companies.
of these digital asset claims was later dismissed with prejudice. We were glad to be vindicated, but we spent years and significant resources defending claims that were ultimately abandoned. Those were years not spent deploying hotspots, not building emergency communications capabilities, and not connecting underserved communities. That is the real cost of regulatory ambiguity. It does not protect investors, it deters the companies that want to follow the rules, and it doesn't stop bad actors from breaking them. The Clarity Act fixes this, and that is why Nova Labs supports its passage. Clarity is not a call for deregulation, it is a call for the right regulation.
Bitcoin
From the right
pumping,
regulator,
helium at
under
all-time
rules that
lows.
market participants can understand and follow. It distinguishes between digital assets that
XRP
function as
pumping.
securities and digital commodities that power operational networks, and it assigns oversight accordingly between the SEC and CFTC. For a network like Helium, that clarity is not abstract. It determines whether the incentive that built the network up to 140,000 hotspots can continue to drive deployment, and whether the public benefits that flow from the network, emergency communications, broadband access, and resilience during disasters and network congestion, can reach more communities. The community has already done the hard work. The House passed Clarity a year ago, and I respectfully urge the committee to see it through to enactment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Abernethy, you're now recognized for 5 minutes.
That was actually pretty good.
Thank
I
you.
liked her.
Chairman Hill, Chairman
Smash
Stile,
the like
Ranking
button
Member,
for Helium.
and members of the subcommittee. Thank you for the invitation to testify and for bringing this hearing to New York, the financial capital of the world. My name is Randy Abernethy. I'm head of clearing and group risk at Bullish, a publicly traded
Guys, this
digital
is
asset
Bullish.
firm
Remember,
listed
Bullish
on the New York Stock
IPO'd earlier this
Exchange,
year.
just a short walk from here. I've spent my career in clearing and risk management for regulated market infrastructure at LCH, at Barclays, and at Nodal Exchange before joining Bullish. Let me tell you briefly who we are. Bullish is an institutionally focused digital asset platform. Our chief executive, Tom Farley, ran the New York Stock Exchange, and we built Bullish deliberately to look and operate like the regulated exchanges and clearinghouses that made American markets the envy of the world. Because the United States had no federal framework, we built under regulators abroad, in Germany, Hong Kong, and Gibraltar. But when American regulators opened a door, we walked through it. Last September, New York's Department of Financial Services licensed us to serve U.S. customers, and we are now working with the CFTC and NFA on the registrations needed to operate a federally regulated exchange, clearinghouse, and intermediary. We are not asking to operate in the shadows. We are asking for a rule book, and we intend to build under it. That is why the Clarity Act matters. 1 year ago today, the House passed it, 294 to 134, with strong bipartisan support. By drawing a clear line
Bipartisan,
between the
that's what we
SEC
wanna hear.
and the CFTC, it gives responsible firms what they've asked for over a decade of uncertainty while capital and innovation moved offshore. And I want to be direct. Regulatory clarity is not a favor to industry. It is how Congress brings this activity onshore under American regulators with American investor protections. From where I sit, running clearing and risk, that's the heart of it. The failures that hurt investors, most notably FTX, happened offshore, beyond the reach of any American regulator. Under this framework, registered exchanges would live under the disciplines that have protected investors for generations: segregated customer assets, capital requirements, surveillance, and federal examination. Bullish follows these principles voluntarily today. We are eager for oversight that makes them mandatory for everyone. As the Senate takes up its bill, I want to focus on one detail that matters enormously in practice: the treatment of exchange affiliates. While early drafts would have flatly banned affiliates of an exchange from trading on it, we have appreciated that Senate leaders have shown a willingness to align itself with the House version of the bill, which instead permitted affiliate activity subject to guardrails. That's the right answer, and for 3 reasons. First, affiliate trading is not some novel feature of crypto. It's common and often necessary in the very markets this legislation uses as its model. Futures exchanges clear through affiliated clearinghouses. Clearinghouses trade for their own account to manage defaults and correct errors. Exchanges rely on affiliates to provide liquidity in new markets until independent market makers arrive. And the SEC expressly permits a broker-dealer running an alternative trading system to trade on its own platform. If a ban were necessary to protect investors, our securities and futures markets wouldn't be built the way they are. Second, these structures are safe because they come with guardrails that work. Strict segregation of customer assets.
This is not going well with Miss Randy. She's for the Clarity Act, but she wants amendments. We don't have time for amendments right now. Here we go. She's explaining why she wants an amendment.
This debate and invoked incorrectly. FTX did not fail because affiliates traded on it. FTX was an unregulated offshore exchange whose affiliate misappropriated customer assets, deploying them largely on other unaffiliated venues. A trading ban would not have stopped that. Every element of that conduct was already illegal for registered firms. In fact, the one piece of FTX that survived was LedgerX, its CFTC-regulated exchange and clearinghouse, precisely because it was under federal supervision. Not a dollar of customer assets were lost there. The lesson of FTX is not to ban practices regulated markets have used safely for decades. The lesson is to bring these markets inside the federal perimeter, which is exactly what this bill does. Bullish is the kind of company this legislation is designed to reach, and we want to build the future of finance here, in America, under American rules. I encourage Congress to finish the job and get the details right. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
The window of opportunity is next week. That's when we expect to vote. I don't know if Congress have enough time to make that amendment. Thank you guys for tuning in. We are watching the Clarity Act hearing. Let's continue with it. Please do hit the like button. Please do subscribe. Someone said, are you guys into XRP? Yes, we are, but we're not like other channels that say goes to $1,000. We marked the bottom at 30 cents. We sold the top at $3. And now we're looking at it again. I'll show you the chart after the hearing. Please do subscribe and listening. Let's go again because this is live. I've just muted it, but we're going to go back to this live hearing. Let's go.
Asset management, ETFs, digital assets, and tokenization.
This is WisdomTree talking now. Remember, they're the ones that have lots of ETFs, asset managers.
The Clarity Act matters because it can provide the market structure certainty around asset classification and SEC and CFTC jurisdiction with broader modernization provisions needed for responsible tokenization and blockchain-based infrastructure to scale in the United States. Section 505 is particularly important because it preserves the principle that a tokenized security should remain the security it represents. At the same time, it fosters the proposition that regulators should be able to modernize how operational requirements apply to blockchain-based infrastructure. That is the right balance. Same regulatory substance, modernized operational mechanics. Tokenization is often described as a new asset class, but it is better understood as a new set of rails for owning, transferring and settling financial products. What changes is the infrastructure through which the asset can be held and moved. An analogy to ETFs is helpful. ETFs did not invent stocks or bonds. They gave investors greater transparency and access to those asset classes at lower cost. Tokenization can do something similar and potentially more compelling by modernizing the speed and flexibility of financial infrastructure while preserving investor protections. That is especially important in markets that increasingly operate around the clock. For most Americans, the focus is not really about blockchain, but realizing the benefits that may come from it. WisdomTree is proof that this can be done responsibly. Earlier this year, WisdomTree became the first and to date only firm to receive SEC exemptive relief, allowing SEC-registered broker-dealers to trade an SEC-registered money market fund, the WisdomTree Tokenized Money Market Fund, 24/7, 365, enabling instant settlement for tokenized fund shares for the first time under U.S. law. We also offer the largest lineup of SEC-registered funds that are tokenized in the market, 15 funds spanning equity, fixed income, alternative, and asset allocation through our WisdomTree Prime and Connect platforms, while also making available tokenized gold, Bitcoin, Ether, and a dollar stablecoin available through our WisdomTree Prime platform. Importantly, WisdomTree has chosen the more regulated path rather than the easier one. Our tokenized fund business includes a variety of SEC-registered entities: SEC-registered investment advisor, transfer agent, investment company, and broker-dealer. And the tokenized gold, Bitcoin, Ether, and stablecoin side of the business is operated under a New York limited purpose trust company underseen by the New York State Department of Financial Services and a money services, money transmission license business. This structure reflects our belief that responsible innovation requires identifiable, regulated entities accountable to investors and regulators. The Genius Act has already shown that clear congressional rules can bring serious institutions.
Just mute this for a second. What annoys me so much, look in the background. Look at the people sleeping. These people are funded by taxpayers. They're supposed to be here listening. They're supposed to be making a change. And look at them. Look at this guy right next to me over there. He just seems to be half asleep or just sleeping blatantly. I don't understand. Taxpayer money. They've come to listen to these guys who've given up their time. These people are not getting paid from these crypto companies. And look at them just sleeping in the background. That really annoys me.
The capital markets, a global benchmark for innovation and investor protection. WisdomTree's experience shows that responsible tokenization is possible today. The Clarity Act can help make it repeatable, scalable, and available to more investors. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Lovar. Mr. Somonsato, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Chairman Hill, Chairman Stile, members of the subcommittee. I was first asked to comment on a draft crypto market structure bill back in 2018. At the time, one Bitcoin had fallen to roughly $3,000. The term DeFi had only recently been coined to describe a small and experimental corner of the ecosystem. And beyond a relatively small group of developers, users, and entrepreneurs, many people viewed crypto as a technology whose moment might have already passed. But even then, the core policy challenge was clear. Congress needed to find a way to empower regulators to protect customers and ensure market integrity while preserving the open peer-to-peer architecture that makes blockchain networks unique. Nearly a decade later, much has changed. Many are worried because Bitcoin is only up 2,000% since the lows of 2018. DeFi has grown from an obscure idea into a term that is used in legislation, regulation, and enforcement actions. And the industry built around crypto networks now includes not only startups, but some of the largest companies in technology and traditional finance. For me personally, I've spent the past 8 years engaging in the development of market structure legislation from several different perspectives. At the CFTC, including my roles running Lab CFTC and working for Chairman Benham, I provided detailed technical analysis to Congress on what authority the CFTC would need to oversee these markets. At Chainalysis, I engaged policymakers on illicit finance issues involving crypto networks. And now at Coin Center, the place that I got my first opportunity in this ecosystem back in 2014, I focus on the public interest and civil liberties issues raised by open blockchain networks. From all of those perspectives, I believe Clarity answers the call. The work is largely done. The provisions have been negotiated. The stakeholders have been engaged. And most importantly, the House passed a bipartisan bill 1 year ago that would create a robust framework for regulating crypto markets while protecting the underlying networks and those who develop them from inappropriate regulation. That latter point is essential. Blockchain networks are not merely a new way to trade assets. At their best, they are open computing networks that allow individuals to hold and transfer value without depending on a bank, exchange, payment processor, or other centralized intermediary. They give individuals the freedom to transact in a peer-to-peer fashion without being censored or unnecessarily surveilled. That is why developer protections are key to market structure legislation. If Congress creates clear rules for centralized cryptocurrency businesses, believes developers exposed to open-ended liability for building non-custodial software, then the legislation will have protected part of the market while undermining the technology that makes that market possible. The Clarity Act recognizes this in several ways. First, it includes protections designed to ensure that software developers and infrastructure providers are not required to register with the SEC or CFTC simply because they write code, publish software, validate transactions, or otherwise support the functioning of a blockchain network without taking control of customer assets or acting in a trusted capacity as a traditional intermediary. Second,
look at him right behind him, constantly falling asleep. Does anyone know who that guy is? I mean, I don't understand. These people have given up their time and money to come out here to give these comments and support the Clarity Act. And these guys behind are using taxpayer money to be flown out to New York, and they're just sleeping in the background. It's ridiculous.
Funds shall not face such a threat in the future. These provisions effectively protect developers without weakening the regulatory protections core to Clarity. Securities laws still apply to securities intermediaries. Clarity even creates new categories for businesses operating in the digital commodity markets and imposes stringent regulations on those newly defined intermediaries. And where a business is properly regulated as a financial intermediary, the Bank Secrecy Act still applies to prevent money laundering and terrorist financing. Clarity keeps regulation focused on the people who actually perform intermediary functions. And for these reasons, Coin Center applauds the House for its work in passing Clarity and encourages the Senate to pass equivalent legislation as part of its market structure efforts. This has been a long process, but the pieces are now in place. Congress can meaningfully improve market integrity and customer protection while also preserving the open networks, non-custodial tools, and peer-to-peer architecture that makes this technology worth protecting. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Somatato. We'll now turn to member questions. I'll recognize myself for 5 minutes.
Okay, so they're going to go over to questions now, very important, and then we'll show you the XRP chart, the breakout, all of that's coming. So stay with us for this. Hit the like button if you haven't done so already. Let's see what this question's all about.
That was electricity 50 years ago, personal computer 30 years ago, commercial internet. Each of these technologies matured, though, and policymakers developed legal and regulatory frameworks that gave businesses, investors, and consumers confidence to innovate, invest, and drive widespread adoption. Blockchain technology has now existed for more than 15 years. Is no longer a theoretical concept. It's a practical technology powering real businesses, real networks, and real economic activity. Yet despite its maturity, entrepreneurs and developers are still facing significant uncertainty about how the digital assets are classified and regulated, which brings me to you, Ms. Aberg. Is it fair to say that without blockchain technology, helium would not exist? In other words, are blockchain and digital assets fundamental?
Do you guys want me to have a look into helium in the future? Because it looks interesting. I've seen it before and it's still here. So do you guys want me to have a look at the crypto helium and do a deep dive on it? Say yes or no in the chat.
Operates across 140,000 unique access points deployed by thousands of individuals and small businesses. That's a distributed, decentralized network infrastructure.
No, go ahead. I'll let you finish.
That infrastructure needs to be coordinated between all these discrete points. Blockchain is the technology that allows us to do that.
So knowing that, what's the real world consequences of the lack of clarity in this space from a regulatory standpoint for your business trying to deploy internet and access to consumers across the country?
So the status quo is that there's not a distinction between tokens that operate a functional network like Helium and tokens that are sold as part of an investment contract and for raising capital. We suffered the consequence of that directly on January 17th, 2025. Thankfully, those claims were dismissed. But right now, without codification of that into law, we could face those exact same claims again by under a new administration, new chairman of the SEC.
Thank you.
Okay, you guys want to deep dive into Helium? I'll have a look at it. I'll look at the chart because the coin is absolutely destroyed, but they seem to still be kicking about. The chief legal officer here, so it might be worth having a look and seeing if it's worth buying some Helium. Again, not financial advice, but I will look into it. A lot of you said yes. So you can keep voting yes or no in the chat. Let's go back to the Q&A. This is the live Clarity Act hearing. If you have just tuned in, this will tell us whether we are going to get a vote next week or not. How well this goes will give us a very good indication whether we'll pass or not. The window of opportunity is now. We are watching the Clarity Act hearing. Let's go back to it. Mr. Steele is asking a few questions first, and then we'll go through some different members as well. Let's get back to it. If you haven't hit the like button, please do.
Regulatory framework recognize the unique characteristics of decentralized networks rather than treating them as if they were traditional centralized networks.
Yeah, so I think the fundamental innovation of what we're talking about here is this ability to transact in a peer-to-peer fashion, as you mentioned. And part of that recognition from the regulatory perspective is identifying what are the technology tools here that are being used versus those individuals who are participating in activities that would traditionally trigger registration and regulation. And I think the technology is fairly novel and new in the way that it interacts with financial infrastructure, but it is important to understand that the key innovation here is equivalent to having a tool in place, just like when the markets went from open floors to electronic trading, right? It wasn't the computers and the network wiring that we started regulating, it was the institutions that use those for regulated purposes, and the same is true in this transition.
Thank you very much. I want to jump to you, Mr. Lovar, if I can. Digital assets represents the next chapter. You talked a little bit in your testimony about how you use ETF and ETPs to navigate around some of the roadblocks that are standing in the way. What are those roadblocks? How do we unlock them, and what happens when we do?
Yeah, I look at it from a couple of different angles. First off, digital assets under the umbrella of sort of crypto assets and then tokenization. So let me start off with crypto assets. And so we develop products, exchange-traded products that invest in those assets. So that was our first foray nearly 8 years ago. One of the roadblocks at the time, and then fast forwarding, was that there wasn't clear delineation of how those assets were categorized. And ultimately, we had an SEC at the time that was really looking at these in terms of not a way under the traditional securities laws and types of disclosure, but more market-based regulation. And so our goal was to launch products investing in those assets at the same time through our U.S. business and through our Europe business. But ultimately what happened is we were able to launch, due to the regulatory environment in the U.S. going back a few years, we were able to launch in Europe many products investing in many digital assets that have now garnered a couple billion in assets, where we were way behind in the U.S.
This is our big opportunity, is to put forward a clarity and a regulatory framework so that folks are investing and developing and deploying here in the United States, not in Europe, not in locations around the globe. Cognizant of the time, I'll yield back. I'll now recognize the chairman of the full committee, Mr. French Hill of Arkansas, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To commemorate the fact that we're in this historic location in our semi-quincentennial, I'd like to ask that a talk I gave about Hamilton's restructuring of the debts negotiated in this building be inserted in the record.
Without objection, and I encourage folks to read it.
Yeah. Well, that won't happen, but we'll insert it in the record. Well, I think we've heard a clarion call today for clarity, and that's really helpful because we've worked in the House, and many of you have been involved in that really since 2018 under Maxine Waters' chairmanship. We dealt with Libra, we dealt with David Marcus going from PayPal to try to explore that. We dealt with FTX's collapse, and Maxine gave important leadership there. And then certainly under Kevin McCarthy as Speaker and Patrick McHenry as Chairman of the committee, you've seen us systematically try to educate members on both sides of the aisle of the importance of making this transition and having fit-for-purpose rules that do not confuse a functional blockchain token for a security investment contract. And that's been at the heart of FIT 21, which we passed 2 Congresses ago, and then, of course, the Clarity Act last summer that we commemorate today with 78 Democratic votes. So this has been a bipartisan priority. And
That's
your
the word
clarion
we
call
want to
today
hear.
really, I think, helps us focus why it's important. And I want to start out, with Mr. Luvar, and there's a lot of conversation, particularly on, I'd say, blockchain ecosystem chatter on X and elsewhere about, well, if the Senate can't pass clarity, don't worry, we can just do all this through exemptive relief. You're a beneficiary of exemptive relief. Could you tell us how much more important it is to have something put in law for the regulatory and legal certainty of that?
Yeah, I mean, we're very grateful, the positioning that the SEC staff has taken under the current leadership in being innovative and forward-thinking and in granting exemptive relief.
But the exact opposite of the last SEC.
Yep.
Would you agree with that? Is this different from Gary Gensler's SEC?
It is different. Certainly we're seeing the winds of innovation behind our back,
Yep.
Very much a different atmosphere, if you will, very pro-innovation. But, we really need durable rules that are embedded within what Congress has approved. That's what's important, so understanding that those asset classifications, the distinction between the SEC and CFTC jurisdiction, the ability to modernize is not just up to the agency, which should embolden and empower the agency and provide the agency with the resources it needs, but really needs to be embedded in law so it can carry administration to administration.
I agree completely that we've, as the chairman outlined in his opening statement, we've seen the migration of our legal and regulatory structure to meet the need for advancing American economic performance, no matter what generation. And we're at another one of those turning points, as we were in the 90s, with the decisions taken by Congress to not regulate the internet, to let it be an open source network, but to regulate activity on the internet. And once again, we're at that fit for purpose moment. Ms. Iberg, such a great, compelling testimony about the success of the Helium Network, and I think it's very educational for members and the public to see distributed ledger technology used in a practical way that's not tangled up in Wall Street jargon. And so you're not the only company with a big success story there, but I think it is a way to illustrate what it is that we're talking about in a way that a lot of people can understand. But you are a victim of regulatory and legal uncertainty. And again, you echo, I'm sure, this comment that the statute is the only way to achieve that for innovators in the country and to make America the safe and sound leader in this. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. Absent clear rules, which we intend and want to comply with, compliance becomes impossible. It is at best guesswork. The regulatory environment that changes with an election cycle is not sustainable.
I apologize for the volume. It's on her end. You can see she hasn't really put that microphone in the right place. But she is the Chief Legal Officer of Helium. That's the crypto we're going to actually have a look at. We'll post that on the newsletter. I'll give you an update on that. I'll do some research over the weekend. I know their token is at all-time lows, so we'll see.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It is
For 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It is wonderful to be here as we mark the 1-year anniversary of the Genius Act being signed into law. We are also getting closer to bringing the Clarity Act across the finish line with the goal of ensuring America leads the world in digital asset innovation and emerging technology. As we discuss what a fully implemented Clarity Act would mean for the future of digital assets in the United States, I want to begin with you, Mr. Sato. One of the Act's central goals is to establish a clear regulatory framework that promotes innovation while strengthening market integrity and consumer confidence. How will the Clarity Act encourage responsible innovation while also safeguarding its illicit finance, market manipulation, and operational risks?
I think the key is in defining those entities that will fall within the regulatory perimeter and then empowering regulators to actually oversee them. I mean, truthfully, the discussions around the regulation of this industry for the past decade have been, one of excitement and newsworthiness. And as a former regulator, it should be a fairly boring job, right? You should know the entities that are under your jurisdiction and be able to implement that. At the same time, we're talking about a novel technology that has the potential to be very innovative and be used in a bunch of different ways, as you've heard from some of the witnesses today. And what that requires is an understanding of where that line is, right? So many have been acting in an environment in which, there's kind of unclear, unwritten rules out there. There's evolving interpretations between various regulators. And that's just not an environment in which, if you're a software developer or somebody who wants to see some of the future innovations be built, that you can really operate easily in. And so the fact that Clarity kind of draws those very clear lines, gives guidance both to the regulators and to the individuals participating in these networks is really powerful.
Thank you for that. Regulation by enforcement during the previous administration drove much of America's digital asset innovation overseas. How will the Clarity Act help reverse that trend, and what impact do you expect it to have on bringing companies' investment, talent, and technological innovation back to the United States?
I think one of the unique aspects, I'm not an expert on kind of which jurisdiction is ahead and which one is behind, but at least from my perspective, seeing a lot of the individuals who are in the U.S. are probably some of the people at the cutting edge of thinking about this innovation. And then there's a lot of structuring to get out of the country to avoid potential regulatory hiccups over the last few years. And that is an environment that is just not conducive to seeing the development that you would want to see in a country, right? Again, going back to that point of, if you have the clear established rules plus the clarity of who is outside of that, right? And we think it's very important from Coin Center's perspective on the BRCA and some of those developer protections to create the environment in which, individual ingenuity, absorbing some of the American values of liberty and freedom of speech that are inherent in this technology, allowing people to kind of build off of those is really important.
I'm going to expand on what you just said. It's just very fitting that we're here at Federal Hall 250 years ago. The American experiment literally created the most freedom in the history of human civilization.
XRP could be having a very
emerging
big
technology,
breakout.
digital assets,
more on that later.
Blockchain technology is going to help freedom flourish in a way that few other things have in human history because of the decentralized nature of it. So we had a hearing on my subcommittee, on the Oversight Committee, Military and Foreign Affairs, about the challenge that emerging technology will pose to authoritarianism. And if you think about the tools of authoritarianism, of autocracy, is information control and capital control. If you can control what your citizenry believes to be true, and if you can control their resources, you can control them. And this is going to have a huge impact on authoritarian governments' ability to control their population's wealth. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I think honestly, blockchain technology is even just one aspect of that, right? We're in a time now where technology is changing so quickly, and how governments choose to interact with that and with the people is an extreme new risk, right? And it's really important to kind of ensure that the values that protect the individuals from participating in these and developing these, and allowing the development of that digital space to look like the development of our physical space in this country 200 years ago is extremely important.
The Clarity Act is incredibly important in maintaining the U.S. economy as the center of the global economy. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, to the extent that this is going to be a technology that is infused into the businesses of all these other witnesses here, it is imperative that that be within the structures, just like our securities markets are, just like our derivatives markets are, right? I think part of the reason of their success over the years has been the regulatory environment in which they get to operate.
Thank you for that. We're on the 1 yard line. We just got to score the touchdown. With that, I yield back. Thank you.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Indiana, Mr. Stutzman, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and it's great to be here. Thank you to the committee for hosting us here at Federal Hall. It's neat to be sitting here discussing future technology in these hallowed halls here. Last night we were at Francis Tavern, and I was thinking, that used to be one of those central points of information. But it was fun just to be there and thinking about the history of our great country and the founding of our country and what we've done in the last 250 years. But our conversation today really is going to affect what the next 250 years is going to be like in our country. As we discussed earlier, 1 year ago today, this House passed the Clarity Act with one of the strongest bipartisan votes in Congress. It cleared Senate banking 2 months ago, yet it is still sitting on the Senate calendar. Every witness here today has a story about what delay cost: faster payments, markets open around the clock, and American innovation that flees overseas. In business, we have a saying that I can handle a yes or a no, but I can't handle suspense. And that's what it feels like we're dealing with today. I want those costs on the record today and to send one clear message that it's time to pass the Clarity Act. Ms. Iberg, I'd like to ask you, because I represent Northeast Indiana, a lot of rural communities. We have a lot of underserved areas that are underserved by major internet providers, and we've spent billions of taxpayer dollars subsidizing broadband in this country, unfortunately with not so much to show for it. Can you tell us how rural America, and especially Hoosiers watching at home, how your network can benefit them?
Absolutely. So one of the problems with the initiative to roll out broadband to rural communities under the BEAD program is that the fiber and cable came out to those communities, but the last mile was not met. And so you have pretty much useless unlit cable and fiber in the ground. What Helium can do is connect to that backhaul and then create a shareable signal for that community in central spaces where they're used by the people in that community. The advantage of doing that is that, one, you're using not bespoke equipment, but typically any Wi-Fi hardware can be converted or to connect to the Helium network. You don't have to buy special equipment. The deployer of that hardware then is able to earn token rewards that are programmatically and automatically distributed via the Helium protocol, which is a blockchain protocol, to that deployer. So that deployer is incentivized to create a signal that then benefits the community that deployer is in. So it empowers the people in those communities to serve themselves and help their neighbors.
You mentioned a lawsuit by the Biden administration in your testimony. If the Clarity Act had been law, do you think that frivolous enforcement action would have happened at all?
Absolutely not. As written, the Clarity Act clearly exempts transactions like those that pay HNT to Helium deployers under the programmatic and automatic distributions within the gratuitous distribution carve-out. That recognition explicitly identifies tokens that power functional networks like ours versus tokens that are used to raise capital. They're two completely
Guys, please
different
vote in the
things,
poll.
two
I'm about to
completely
end
different
it.
risk profiles,
Please vote
and we
in the
should not
poll.
have been categories
Wow.
in the other.
What a huge setback. Ms. Abernathy, I'd like to ask you, your exchange is already regulated in Germany, Hong Kong, and Gibraltar, but has only just gotten a foothold here in the U.S., and I think that sequence speaks volumes. Why did a company like Bullish have to go abroad first before setting up shop here in the United States, where you think that this would be a no-brainer for us?
Yeah, so when we...
Your microphone, please.
Thank you. That's better. So when we launched the exchange, that was back in 2021, at that point, there was very limited regulatory jurisdictions that actually had proper investor protections as part of any kind of regulatory framework. And to us, that was and always has been, still is, very important. And that was why we needed to find that regulatory structure. So again, in 2021, when we launched the exchange, we went to Gibraltar because it was actually one of the few that had a regulatory framework with proper investor protections.
Wow, it's fascinating. My time's almost set to expire, so I'll just yield back, Mr. Chairman, but thank you both for your answers.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Florida, Mr. Herodopoulos, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And as a history teacher, I love being here. This is fantastic, and I could not be more appreciative of the fact that the opportunities that will afford so many Americans with this new legislation will clearly be enhanced. And one of the fundamentals I've always worked from is the idea that the key with government is offering certainty and stability. And Ms. Aberg, I'm really saddened to hear your story today and the unfortunate nature of what has happened. And I'm so glad to see we're finally moving forward with some clarity so that you can operate here in America and grow these opportunities. And this financial framework we're talking about is really what makes America the unique place. Everybody wants to do business here. Unfortunately, the previous administration did not provide that certainty and stability, and thus the dollars are going elsewhere, jobs are going elsewhere, and it's so important that we do it this the right way. And I want to applaud the chairman, Mr. Stile from Wisconsin, where walking us through the historic nature of when America acts with that certainty and stability, starting with Hamilton and others, providing the haven where people can invest with confidence, knowing that the rules will be there in part. And that means our kids and grandkids will actually have the jobs of the future that are in places around the world we never thought they would be. Mr. Lovar, if I could ask you, traditional crypto and traditional companies will now compete under these equal rules or same rules. How does this bill, in your mind, create that level playing field we've all been looking for?
Yeah, so I think
we have a new poll. Please do vote in the new poll. Let me get to know the audience today.
Operating under a regulated infrastructure. I think bringing that recognition that requires governance, risk management, an understanding of clear rules, whether the asset you're operating under or the regulatory jurisdiction you're operating under, SEC or CFTC, whether you're an established financial services firm like WisdomTree or a fintech, just having those knowable rules will allow you to continue to build your business, and more particularly, build it here in the U.S. under those knowable rules.
And Mr. Sobin-Cento, if I could, on the DeFi issue, in the bill, it specifically excludes that certain rules with DeFi. What would happen if we did not have that same clarity? What would happen to DeFi if we did not provide the structure that's in this bill?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would continue the environment that we've been in for a while now, which is, listen, the developers are creating pretty novel technologies, right, that do test the questions around what should and shouldn't fall into a regulatory environment. And it's really incumbent on Congress to kind of come forward and say, this is where we draw the line. And from us, for a perspective, like, there are important protections to be had, right? First Amendment protections to be able to write code, protections to participate in these networks in a peer-to-peer management without having, surveillance from the government that might be unnecessary. And so clarity is really important at just, again, making that line clear so that that development activity can continue, right? And that people can understand when the development activity and the business activity flows into something that's regulated, that they know where that falls as well. And clarity is very specific on that line.
Thank you. And I'll just close by saying this. I really appreciate the chairman and also our full chairman Hill. I mean, a lot of people look at Congress as a very chaotic place, and the way that you've been able to navigate this with the ranking member really makes a difference. I mean, we go back home, we say we actually made this a bipartisan bill. Everybody had kind of not only a stake in this, but more importantly, a say in how we change the rules on how we modify this emerging technology. And I couldn't be more pleased to be on a committee that focuses on solutions, not playing politics. And so with that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back. And again, thanks for taking this time here at a special place and a special time in our history.
Thank you very much. The gentleman yields back. The gentleman from North Carolina, Mr. Moore, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning to our guests today. Thank you for the candid testimony. And Ms. Aberg, while you were testifying, and I actually was doing a little other research, reading some articles about what all happened, and I think to Mr. Herodopoulos' comments, unbelievable the way the company was treated. And I do want to thank you again for the efforts you all made in Western North Carolina after Helene. That was very helpful to allow commerce to pick back up. So thank you for those efforts. That cannot be expressed enough. It always strikes me as odd. You think about it, roughly a third of all Americans either own or use digital assets in some manner. So this isn't some fleeting thing that's going to go away. And there are those who look at it and they resist technology. Well, guess what? If we banned automobiles, we'd have 40,000 less deaths a year. But that's not, we're not going to get rid of cars, I don't think. So there's inherent risk in certain technologies. But the guidelines and the proposals and the law that's being worked on with respect to, of course, the Genius and then with Clarity are designed to do that. So it's understandable why companies, with the failure, particularly the 4 years before under the Biden administration, were having to look to go offshore. So I think it's important that we work hard to bring that stability, and that's why I'm proud of what this committee has done and what the House has done to pass this legislation. But it did bring me to another question, Ms. Aberg, and that is, it's clear why the market structure is important for financial firms, but tell me about when it comes to companies who are developing blockchain applications outside of traditional finance. Why is it important to have these guidelines as well for them?
It's critical. For pretty much our history embodies why it is so critical. The SEC sued Nova Labs over allegations that the hotspots, so hardware, could be plugged in exchange the deployer of that hardware could earn tokens. It also said that users of a mobile phone plan, that was also an unregistered securities offering because the user of that phone plan could potentially earn tokens if they voluntarily opted into a program where they provided useful information for mapping the network. That we're trying to build infrastructure. We're not trying to raise capital through selling tokens. We've never actually sold tokens in the secondary market other than OTC sales that were constructed with to be Regulation D compliant. Clarity defines and allots tokens that are used to run functional networks like ours to the regulation under the CFTC. The CFTC still has its full regulatory toolkit. And can bring claims for fraud, manipulation, and abuse in the sale and purchase of those tokens like it always has been. I don't think Clarity is a call for deregulation. I think it's a call for the right regulation per the right regulator. And without that clarity, infrastructure projects like ours are not going to be durable in the United States. We need the certainty of legislation codified into law that cannot be changed at the whim of whoever happens to be sitting at the chair of the SEC or the White House.
And so to your point, of course, jurisdictions like the European Union, Singapore, the UK, Hong Kong, and the Emirates have aggressively moved to establish clear digital asset frameworks. Mr. Salmonsato, would bring me to you. What lessons can Congress learn from the jurisdictions that have already adopted these digital asset regulatory frameworks, and where have those frameworks succeeded or fallen short?
I mean, I think the key lesson is more the initiative, right? It is the recognition that there's something novel here and that the markets are developing in a way that requires some kind of regulation, and that there are jurisdictions that have kind of leaned into that and said, okay, we're going to tackle this problem. And we recognize that kind of existing regulation is being tested in a way that we can't just rely on some of the principles that have been there. And so, one, I think it's that, you know, that lesson of, hey, you need to take the initiative, and that comes down to Congress. And then I think the second part is, you know, naturally markets are global environments, right? It's very difficult to put jurisdictional boundaries around markets, and that requires, you know, all the regulators to kind of come together and be able to marry where that makes sense, and that requires, again, that initiative to put some regulatory environment in place.
And in that same thing, just as a follow-up on that, why would you say it's important that any market structure legislation preserve the ability of decentralized finance to innovate while ensuring there is the regulatory oversight focused where there are risks?
Yeah, I mean, for us, that is the core innovation here, right? It is the development of a network that is permissionless to participate in and to be able to transfer value in a peer-to-peer fashion, right? It is the truth that there has been a large development of financial institutions and technology firms building in this environment. But even without those, the technology is still important, and that requires the protection of those people who want to participate at that level.
Thank you, and my time has expired, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman yields back. The chair now recognizes the chair of the Subcommittee on Oversight in Investigations, the gentleman from Pennsylvania, Mr. Muser, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all very much for being here with us. This is really a great hearing. It's very, very important, and it's certainly fitting that we're here at Federal Hall, where capital formation began in our country, and the Clarity Act is about extending that same opportunity to more Americans, not fewer. And I'm sure my colleagues as well, are certainly hoping that the Senate is watching your testimonies and your comments, because they're compelling, and they certainly need to be aware of it. I'm also a little disappointed none of our Democrat colleagues are here. They were invited, and certainly Republicans and Democrats will all benefit, all of America, by passing the Clarity Act. We've passed the Genius Act, as you well know, into law, signed by the president. So, you know, the stablecoins has got its federal framework. The House has done its part in passing Clarity, and truly it's up to the Senate to finish the job. So,
Democrats
Mr.
didn't turn up.
Salmonsato, let me start with you, please.
Not good.
With your experience working at the CFTC and now the private sector, how does the Clarity Act make sure we're not creating new gaps for illicit finance and market manipulation while we're trying to give legitimate businesses certainty?
Yeah, so I think it does a few things. I've talked already about how it, sets the clear lines of which entities are going to be regulated. But then core to that is building off of that to use the traditional anti-money laundering structures that are in place, right? To say that these newly regulated entities are still going to be Bank Secrecy Act regulated and that they will have an obligation to surveil for illicit activity. I used to work at Chainalysis. It's a company that recognizes there's something unique in these networks and the ability to process some of the data and be able to identify potential bad actors. And what you've seen is even something unique in this market of companies that operate using that kind of technology to do enhanced screening or kind of a different form of risk management on their customers and on illicit activity. And so I think kind of putting all of those pieces together with this bill and kind of ensuring that those intermediaries that are rightfully defined as so also have those AML obligations and kind of the kind of, I don't want to say motivation, but the call to implement that is really important in this system.
Thank you. Mr. Louver, WisdomTree Prime mobile app, tokenized securities for sales. Do you think this will expand access to everyday investors to trade on the blockchain? And how does what role does Clarity Act play in that?
Yeah, most certainly. I think, if you look at one of the core benefits, and this gets to a point Mr. Timmons made as well, is you look at the investor being able to have greater control. So we can deliver that tokenized fund share to their own wallet. They control that wallet, and then they can move that fund share to anyone else's wallet instantly. If you think about the power of that instant movement, instant settlement, right now, that is intermediated. Believe it or not, if you tried to move a traditional share of stock, if you just said, hey, I want to transfer this share of stock to my son or daughter, that is actually not a simple process. It requires a lot of paperwork, multiple days, just to do that simple action. Now I can hold my tokenized share in my wallet, move it immediately. So just bringing back the power to the investor is critically important. The Clarity Act embodies and notes the power of tokenization, that securities that are tokenized or securities themselves, also empowers the SEC and CFTC to continue to innovate. So that's really what's going to continue to allow innovation and growth in this space.
Great. From your perspective, Ms. Louver, where does today's uncertainty over whether a digital asset, which of course the Genius Act tried to clarify, falls under the SEC's or CFTC's jurisdiction, does that create a operational or compliance burden?
It has historically, yes. I mean, from our historical experience, for instance, we tried under the prior administration just have comfort that our tokenized gold product was in fact a commodity. If you think about certificate of title to physical gold in a vault, that seems like pretty clearly a commodity, but it was such a complicated environment that we, didn't have complete comfort. We then said, okay, help us understand, why this shouldn't be just considered a commodity, and we just could not get an answer. And this Clarity Act would provide those knowable rules, those durable rules to make clear that answer. I mean, we ultimately launched because we knew we were in the right there, that we had the clear answer, but you want the durable rule to allow you to really have the ultimate comfort there.
Thank you. I'm glad. I believe we have a second round, so I will have more questions after that. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
The gentleman yields back, and indeed we do have a second round, so we'll go into a second round of questions for our witnesses. I want to dive in, if I can, with you, Ms. Abernethy, again. A lot of crypto intermediaries and exchanges have been relying on licenses like the state money transmitter license.
We are watching the Clarity Act hearing live. This will probably end in the next half an hour, so let's continue to listen in. The Democrats haven't shown up. That is quite a big tell. Next week is the only window of opportunity for the Clarity Act. Senator Loomis says it is going to happen next week. Let's continue to listen in to why the Clarity Act should pass, and then we can get a better judgment if it will pass. So this is live, the Clarity Act hearing. Please do hit the like button. Please do subscribe. A few people want to get the free newsletter. A few people want to get the paid newsletter. The link is in the live chat. However, at the end of this, I will be doing a very special offer. There will be very limited spaces. Plus, it might come with some XRP merch that could be signed by Brad Garlinghouse. I'll tell you more about that when this hearing ends. So please do hit the like button in the meantime. Please do subscribe. We've got someone from Helium there, the Chief Legal Officer. We've got Mr. Randy, who's speaking now. She's from Bullish. We've got someone from WisdomTree and someone from a non-profit as well in crypto. So let's continue to listen in. Thank you guys for tuning in. Subscribe, hit the like button. This is live. And let's go back to this hearing for the second round of questions. And then I'll tell you about that very special offer. You have to be very quick. So start being prepared with a browser for that.
That obviously allows businesses to scale. That's one benefit, right? You're going to see hopefully capital deployed in the United States. The other side of this that I'm focused in on not only is making sure that we're investing here in the United States rather than abroad, but also how we're protecting consumers in the process. How does that, having a national framework, benefit consumers rather than the patchwork that we just discussed?
Well, again, to the point, having the framework will bring liquidity onshore. To your point, it will make the markets actually have a structure within which they can grow and develop, which just we have not had to date, and that is why liquidity has certainly left. And we've seen it in the past when new regulatory structures have come in to even traditional markets. They have done so with the right protections that have allowed a market to grow, evolve, and effectively protect all consumers involved.
I think there's a real opportunity as this framework builds out. Not only will you see more innovation and development in the United States, I think this is also our opportunity to make sure that there's consumer protection standards in place to help people. The good actors want to root out the bad actors in this space. I think making sure that we have clear lines as to what regulator has what authority where, as Clarity does, provides us huge opportunities in this space. I'll stay with you just for a minute here since we're in a second round. The Clarity Act really shores up the SEC's authority with respect to digital assets commodities sold as part of an investment contract and allows the SEC registered entities to offer digital commodities on their platforms. Could you just give a little flavor as to why you think that is an important provision inside Clarity?
Yeah, so that's really important as it kind of helps towards the development of kind of a dual registration, if you like, between the SEC and the CFTC. And, as we've seen recently from March 2026, sort of the MOU between the SEC and the CFTC, as well as the interpretation that came out, that the agencies are trying to harmonize and working towards that, which I think would be an incredible benefit because there are overlaps, there are intersections, and they do need to work together. Some of the important ones, one in particular I've been looking at is the portfolio margining that is recently being discussed, which can provide not only more effective and efficient risk management, but it can also actually unlock capital, which then provides more liquidity into the market.
Thank you very much. Appreciate everybody being here. I'll yield back and I'll recognize the chairman, Mr. Hill, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, sir. Let me stay with you, Ms. Abernathy. Talked about you've got the base exchange, and people are now writing applications on this base layer, which Clarity gives some real benefits to. But can you walk through the migration of certain traditional finance intermediated settlement activities to a decentralized blockchain approach, and talk about how you see that interoperability and, for example, in the consolidated audit trail plans of the SEC, not my favorite subject, but nonetheless.
Please do vote in the poll. I'm about to end it. If you haven't voted in the poll yet, please do vote, and I will end the poll in a second.
Have an obligation to show that lit market to tell me how you're going to comply with that.
So we operate a centralized exchange, primarily. So we're not moving into sort of the decentralized space. And so that is how we are evolving, as noted, starting with sort of, we have applications in right now with the CFTC to have our centralized futures exchange, clearinghouse, and intermediary. We had also recently announced an acquisition of Equinity, and the purpose of that was to move into the tokenized securities infrastructure, and we believe combining the platforms does sort of give that full life cycle from issuance and registry to trading and connecting effectively a trusted sort of reporting and regulated transfer agent that was Equinity or is, and with Bullish's sort of blockchain and trading infrastructure, and that this represents the future of the securities market.
Thank you, Mr. Lovar. Same sort of question to you, since you run a big, well-known traditional finance company you're using tokenization. There are a lot of people that, they don't want to be bombarded with information from you 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. So tell me the value of tokenized settlement with 7-day-a-week settlement for your customers. Who's using it now that you're offering it, and what kind of volumes are you seeing?
Yeah, so one of the things I'd note is that we've seen increased volumes just since the passage of the Genius Act. So one of the important things there is, I think, just Congress putting its stamp on actually approving a federal framework for, even though that was for stablecoins, I just think it underlies the importance of the passage of clarity. So we've seen increased activity since then, including increased stablecoin issuers. So those stablecoin issuers, for instance, are interacting with our money market fund as a reserve asset. So they want that instant liquidity, instant availability, can move into their reserve, and then as their users are moving in and out also instantly out of that stablecoin, they can similarly move that reserve asset. We're also seeing stablecoin holders that aren't able to obtain yield through holding their stablecoin similarly access our assets, our tokenized funds, particularly our tokenized money market fund, but also the other exposures. I can move my digital assets instantly. I want also, if I'm going to access and interoperate with traditional financial services, I want that similar experience. So, every user should have that similar experience and have the availability to instantly settle and also work 24/7 around the clock. I think, as well as, as others are, you're entering into different spaces, it can be difficult to have a financial position that you want to liquidate, for instance, and not be able to do that on a Saturday when the markets are maybe volatile otherwise. So providing that access point 24/7 we found to be very important.
Mr. Samasato, similar with your regulatory experience too, tokenization of collateral pools, we talked about net margining, but wouldn't that be a big issue, and couldn't that have been helpful in some catastrophic situation like Silicon Valley if the collateral pool of the Federal Home Loan Bank and the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco had all been 24-hour accessible with blockchain accounting? Isn't that a way to have more liquidity, more safety in the financial system?
Yeah, I mean, I'll take even a different example, which is you go back to 2008, and there was a lot of questions about, to what extent was the crisis a result of the derivatives market, and a lot of it was just an unknown exposure between counterparties, so when you have something with more, uniform infrastructure and information available to a regulator, it's a lot more information to glean that maybe it wasn't the case that any one business was underwater, but now we know the credit exposure to each business and can manage that risk better.
Yeah, I think that's an important point, Mr. Chairman, when we think about the benefits and scale of this technology. Yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from South Carolina, Mr. Timmons, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's critically important that Congress continue to create the rules of the road to make sure that emerging technology has certainty. And the Biden administration's regulation by enforcement was the exact opposite approach, and now Congress has acted. We put a lot of points on the board with Genius. We're about to put more points on board with Clarity, but we need to continue to build to maintain the certainty for businesses to invest and to give them the rules of the road. And I think the next step, I hope, is going to be around tokenization. I have an NFT bill that we've been working on and plan on filing it after Clarity passes. I think that all of this emerging technology changes lives in a way that we can't really fathom. I mean, think about it. The iPhone came out just 20 years ago, and the world has changed just immensely. I still remember the BlackBerry. So, I mean, I can't think of what 20 years from now is going to look like. And I think that there's some areas that are exciting. And again, all of this emerging technology has value because it streamlines processes, it removes middlemen, it creates transparency, and it gives people more freedom to move their assets. It makes their lives easier. So as it relates to tokenization, there's also a potential for the government to use it. So one thing that I've been thinking about is vehicles. I recently got a new car to register my car. You got to pay taxes, all this stuff. So, I mean, Mr. Lovart, could the government tokenize vehicles and then streamline taxation? I mean, we're having this issue of the gas tax. We got electric vehicles. We're going to have hydrogen vehicles soon. So, I mean, could we use blockchain technology, tokenize vehicles to register and to tax vehicles as they use roads?
Yeah, I think, look, there's many opportunities for tokenization. We're focused in the financial services space, but as you note, if you just focus on the underlying fundamentals of it's a, transparent, blockchain database essentially that is immutable. So having that record-keeping functionality that, as you mentioned, can potentially, provide more seamlessness, greater functionality, quicker functionality, having that, in what may traditionally be very, spaces that aren't typically, functioning as fast as they want them to be in terms of cars, registration, taxes. I think, it's potentially a very, very significant use case, certainly.
I got another fun one, land. So, I mean, how many people across this country work at the Recorder of Deeds office? I mean, ChatGPT said over 1 million. So, I mean, if you think about it, we have records that go back hundreds of years to show who owns what and who passed it across title, all of this stuff. So, I mean, we theoretically could tokenize land, and we could, in 20 years, no longer have these questions of deeds or title insurance. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, that's the importance of, you have an immutable, transparent record, and that immutability, it can't be changed. So that's incredibly important. You potentially reduce potential for forgery or the like. Well, you have that transparent record. You can see where it moved, and also you can tell, how it's moved. Does it move to, different, types of actors? So yeah, I think there's a lot of potential there as well.
Well, I think that it's hard to even imagine what the world's going to look like in 20 years. But in order for us to continue to be the center of the global economy and to continue to provide the American dream that people have enjoyed for 250 years, we've got to get this right. And that's the importance of passing clarity. And we got to then build on it. And there's other pieces of legislation that will continue to give the rules of the road to the free market to continue to innovate. And it's exciting times. And I appreciate that. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Mr. Stutzman is recognized for 5.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. After Mr. Timmons' comment, it reminded me of a picture that I sent to my boys a couple of weeks ago, and I don't know if you've seen this, but it's a guy holding a camera, one of the old video cameras, VHS cameras on his shoulder. He's got I can't even remember the names of these things, VHS, CDs, these big phones, all these different devices that we used to use back in the 80s and 90s, and now it all fits in our hand. I mean, in one hand, and we can stick it in our pocket, and that's how far technology has come. And I think one of the things that is important, especially as we discuss this particular issue, is how do we explain to our constituents and to the American people what this actually does for them in their everyday lives. I mean, I'm trying to schedule a closing here in the next couple of weeks, and we're having to get everybody there all at the same time and, land at the same spot and signatures. And, obviously there's some ways to get around some of that. But Ms. Abernathy, we were talking a little bit about, companies that are going overseas. Can you talk a little bit about, enacting clarity? It would encourage more firms to be here in America. We know the race that we have with China. We know the race that we have with other countries. If we don't get this right, what happens? What do Americans miss out on? I mean, because I know, like, even some of the blockchain technology. How does it apply to a restaurant owner? How does it apply to people in small businesses and healthcare, things like that. And then I'd like to open it up to the rest of the panel too, but Ms. Abernathy, if you could comment on that.
So, I mean, absolutely, if we don't get this right, then there would be a lot of things that are missed out on. Again, from my perspective, from an exchange, getting this right means liquidity comes into the U.S., but what that also means is obviously more capital to do more with, to develop the technology more, to innovate, and to figure those kinds of things out. I'm probably less in that, very technical, exactly how it might help a restaurant or another thing of that nature. But I do, from the exchange perspective, getting this right will absolutely bring liquidity on shore. And bringing liquidity on shore means more capital, means more innovation. And through that innovation, I mean, we've seen it. It's already been mentioned. What's it going to look like in 20 years?
Yeah.
We don't know. But it all is moving in a digital direction and a direction that benefits customers. It's, otherwise there'd be no point. But it's all benefiting consumers. It's all benefiting all of us.
Yeah. I mean, it reminds me a lot of what the chairman said earlier about the internet. We're building the interstate highway. And, we really built the interstate highway for commerce, but also for military purposes. And then all of a sudden you have businesses that are just sprouting up and doing all these different new innovative services and building products for the American people. And that's where we're at today and what can be done. But, whether it's blockchain technology is, it's still so new. We probably use it in some ways that we don't even realize. Mr. Solomon-Sada, you're shaking your head there. I'm kind of curious what some of your thoughts are on what should the American people, why should they support the Clarity Act? Because it's going to help them in their daily lives.
Yeah, I think it kind of comes in layers, right? I think going back to what Mr. Timmons said, it's very difficult to project ahead what the future of technology looks like, other than we know it's going to drastically change things over time. And we've seen development encouraged in this area and a lot of new technologies coming on board. And then I think as you've seen early adoption, it becomes incumbent on Congress to say, here are the rules of the road, so that the companies who do want to build that infrastructure that might be more usable to the end individual can create something, right? The goal of technology should be to make things easier, to make them safer. And I'm not some techno-utopian who thinks all of it is going that way, right? Again, it requires each step in the path to kind of focus on that. I mean, one practical example I'll give you, which is I run my kids' swim team, right? I'm the parent volunteer, and this is the first year that we've required credit cards because everything is through online, and it's I'm just looking at our small nonprofit swim team and looking at how much you're paying on credit card fees and how many different accounts I have to set that up. And I'm not saying I don't think crypto is necessarily at a point where it's going to replace all of that, right? But the concept of, hey, a new technology that makes payments easier and that allows them to be in peer-to-peer, coming back to the users and to the individuals in this country, hopefully the development is down a path where at some point you go, hey, this feels more like when I just used to pay for something in cash, right? And it's easy and it's online. And I think that is the hope of building the regulatory structure, allowing the companies to build, is you kind of get that incremental approach towards that.
Thank you.
Yields back. Gentleman from Florida, Mr. Herdopoulos is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me get into the DeFi issue as well again. One of the defining features of DeFi is that many applications operate through open source software rather than traditional financial intermediaries. As innovation continues in this space, it's important that developers who write and publish software are not treated the same as entities that take custody of consumer assets or control transactions. So the question to you is, how does Clarity help distinguish between software developers and regulated financial intermediaries? And why is protecting developers who build decentralized technologies important for fostering innovation while maintaining appropriate consumer protections?
Yeah, so I go back to the fundamental innovation here being that ability to write up code, offer it up for anybody to use, and that allows you to participate in a network where you do a transaction in a peer-to-peer way. And a DeFi at its best is intended to do something along those lines. And so when you look at Clarity, there's a few ways that it addresses this issue. Let's start with what is our key priority, which is the BRCA, which is right now money transmission, right? There's different concepts of that at a state level, at a federal level, but at a baseline interpretation, it involves somebody taking your money and transmitting it to another person, right? And you play that trusted role because you're taking, hold of their money, you're offering up something to the customer that that they should put their trust in you. And what crypto networks and DeFi at its best will look like is actually it is your ability to take an open source tool and send those transactions direct in a peer-to-peer fashion. In that case, the developers who created that network are not the same thing as money transmitters. But we live in a world where the interpretations around those provisions are flexible, right? And you've seen...
Okay, I will give you a full summary at the end of this. There's a few more left, 5 minutes each, and then I'll give you a very, very special offer that will go very fast. So yeah, 15 minutes left, and then I'll give you my thoughts. I'll tell you about next week. I'll tell you about the Clarity Act vote. And yeah, stay with us. Please do hit the like button. Please do subscribe. And in 15 minutes time, something very special.
The type of activity that is going to suck you into a regulatory environment. So that's really key in Clarity. And then it also does something similar from the SEC and CFTC registration perspectives.
Thank you.
I will also look at the XRP chart,
great
Bitcoin chart,
talk about transferring stock,
and your questions,
right? And the old way and hopefully the new way, right? And I'm sure we all do wired transfers. It's a pain. You get $30. You got to go in and do all these different steps. Walk us through what a traditional situation you describe if you want to transfer some shares to your daughter in the old way versus what the future might be, just so that we could educate folks who are watching why this is so important.
Yeah, I think, it really boils down to just you're having a number of steps and number of intermediaries, involved in the process. So, first off, it's that I have my account at a financial institution, so they're going to require a certain level of paperwork just to be able to say, hey, I would now want to transfer to this account. Whereas, so I've lost the control of the ability to be able to move my asset because I'm dependent on that financial intermediary to do so. So it's part of that being able to instruct, if you will. But I have a reliance there, and from there, once that instruction is made, then you have the plumbing to be able to do that, to have to move it, which typically that plumbing, takes a good day or two to go through the system of intermediaries to move from, one account through, say, the DTCC to another account. So it's that plumbing that is not needed within the wallet-to-wallet direct peer-to-peer example. None of that is needed, actually. So that's really the power of it, and that instantaneous settlement essentially seamlessly.
Great. And Ms. Abernathy, if I could, you guys are the experts at this. We're playing catch up with y'all, and we're trying to create the best legislation possible. But when you're talking to your friends who aren't in the finance world, kind of as the answer Mr. Lovard just gave, how do you describe what digital assets are to the layperson who isn't in this field?
I do get asked that often, and it's one that you have to stop and think about. Do you want a sentence, a chapter, or a book? Digital assets. There's so many things. From my perspective, from an exchange perspective, they're another asset class. They're another asset that can be traded, but they can be traded in ways that are similar yet different. The difference is more down to the technology and some of the enhancements that can be done, again, from a risk management perspective, given that that's one of my key focuses. We can run margining calls so much more frequently than what is currently under the regulations today. And we can use collateral in a way that, again, the existing regulations haven't thought about. Sorry.
And I yield back, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, sorry. But thank you. It's a complex issue, and that's why it's always helpful to get the folks to understand how, as Mr. Lovard described, it's just trying to make our life simpler, but also have that transparency so you have the confidence to make that transaction. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Mr. Moore is recognized.
Thank you, sir. Digital assets really should not exist or in isolation from the traditional financial markets that we have in the United States. I would submit that one of the reasons that we have been as great and prosperous a nation as we have been really falls down to a safe, reliable financial system that underpins all that allows that creative, that entrepreneurship, that growth, that balances the forward thinking to advance and to grow, but also those protections that need to be in place. And so my question, and I would first ask this over to Mr. Luvar, is, first of all, what benefits do you think there are by allowing the traditional financial institutions to participate in the digital asset markets?
I think it goes back to some of those hallmarks that we've touched on earlier in terms of, what is the investor experience potentially benefiting from in terms of, leveraging this technology. And I think ultimately for us, the reference to tokenization or blockchain will in time, fall behind the scenes. The investor will not really be focusing on, is it blockchain, is it tokenization, but what are those benefits that I'm getting? Can I seamlessly move my asset? Do I have transparency in seeing, where it's potentially moving to? Is it quicker than what I'm historically experiencing? And most importantly, can I control my own experience to a greater extent? I think the other important aspect, we touched a little bit on interoperability earlier, but if you think about it, there's multiple rails that the asset can move on, multiple different blockchains. And so as an issuer, we support asset movement on 8 different blockchains, Ethereum, Arbitrum, Avalanche, Stellar. And so that allows the investors even greater control to say, okay, here's a financial rail, here are the benefits of that one, attributes that I want to take advantage of, and I want my asset to move within my wallet through that financial rail direct to my counterpart. So really it's that holistic, I think, set of benefits that are really investors are looking for.
So let me ask you this, and this is going to be open to any of the 4 that want to comment on it. Assuming that we get clarity passed out of the Senate, signed into law, and done, where do you see things 5 years, 10 years, and even we're going to do the 20-year on that one? Like, I don't think VHS is going to be back though, Mr. Stutzman. I think that's gone. But where do you think we are, and how does that apply to the consumer out there across the country?
If I may respond, Mr. Moore. So I think that I think Helium represents a non-financial application of blockchain, and it is already serving millions of Americans on a daily basis, and millions of people in Mexico and soon in Brazil and potentially the United Kingdom. I think what we are showing is that blockchain can be utilized and integrated into incredibly interesting infrastructure projects and other projects to enhance the cost efficiency of the delivery of those services, and make and empower people on a local level to create those services for themselves and their community. It's not limited to wireless. It can happen with sharing. It could help update the energy grid. There are projects using distributed energy models. It can happen on the compute level. There are people sharing gigabytes for running AI programs, for running graphics programs. This enriches communities that are deploying that technology, and it is a way to enhance the delivery of those services already. And blockchain makes that feasible by being the connective tissue between all those discrete contributors.
Okay. Anyone else want to comment on that? Mr. Luvar?
Yeah, I think, I think naturally as a large ETF sponsor, we looked at some analogies there. I think we've seen the growth, and it took the ETF industry, it's only 30 approximately years old, but time to grow from its infancy and now eclipsing mutual funds. So, $10+ trillion, and that goes back to the benefits that those investors are experiencing. As we look at this industry, we're actually seeing a greater growth trajectory. And I think that really goes back to the benefits I talked about earlier. So we're excited for the growth trajectory and really leading and innovating in the space there. And I think clarity will really be the catalyst, to really put those durable laws in place, just so we're not guessing, we're not uncertain about especially the future, make it administration proof.
Thank you. With that, I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman yields back. Mr. Muser is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Aberg, the status quo is clearly not protecting consumers or investors or providing an environment that fosters innovation. How would the Clarity Act better protect consumers from crypto-related scams?
I think by creating clear rules for companies who want to comply to be able to comply with those rules. Right now, under the status quo, there are so many resources being spent by projects like mine on defensive structuring, on outside counsel, on trying to guess at what the regulations require, how they will be applied by a very mercurial SEC. With codified legislation, we have certainty about what the rules are and how to comply with them. I think that is unquestionably, objectively, a better environment for business and a better environment for innovation, a better environment for builders and for consumers, because consumers know what they're getting into. Investors know how to scope the risk if they want to contribute capital. Counterparties that we deal with can understand what regulations may apply to the activities they're coming into. Right now, all of that is a gray area, and that's just not a sustainable, workable framework for us to exist in.
Right, thank you. And we hope our current SEC isn't so mercurial in your view. Ms. Abernethy, how do traditional IPOs compare to digital asset capital raises when it comes to investor protection and how companies can use the money they raise?
Sorry, I'm not getting this microphone thing correct. With regards to capital raising, investors should get transparent, sufficient, and accurate information. They need to have, enough information to make informed decisions and to ensure there's no fraud or manipulation. That should be no different, whether it's a traditional security or a tokenized asset or a digital asset. The investor protections that are involved and that have been, the same principle applies. There should be absolutely no difference between the two.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Lover, I see you're sort of biting at the bit to maybe answer that question, but I got another question for you first. If you were speaking to the Senate, what would you say to them about the importance of passing the Clarity Act?
Yeah, I think that what we've seen so far is certainly, while WisdomTree is sort of focused on the U.S., we've seen a lot of innovation go offshore. We've seen a lot of players offshore. And so, really the Clarity Act and providing that durable framework that it's proposed to provide, I think will really ensure that America continue to be the powerhouse of innovation in capital markets. And we want to build here and continue to do so to have that durability. So I would say, if you're going to keep America at the forefront of innovation, pass the Clarity Act.
Great. Mr. Samansato, same question.
There's like a lot of divergent views on crypto, right? And I think that even from my perspective, right, there's some really fascinating and interesting developments and innovations in this area. And at the same time, there's a lot of fluff, right? And I don't think that changes the way that I think Congress should approach this, which is you have constituents who are interested, excited, want to participate in these networks, see different value through different products and through different platforms. And the job of Congress is to understand that need.
Sorry, 1 second. We've got an absolute troll in the chat. Suzat, just before you make some random claims, how about you do some research and you talk and you actually look at what I've said on this channel. I've never said we're going to go to $100. I've never said we're going to $1,000. I bought XRP at 30 cents. I sold it around $3. And now I'm buying again at $1 to potentially take a trade up to $3, $5, $10. Those aren't astronomical levels. So before you come on this chat and try and compare us to other people in the XRP world that are trying to sell you scams and all that sort of stuff, how about you do some research and don't bring any of that hate over here. You can take it to other people, don't bring it here because we aren't that sort of channel.
America. I think that America has always been the standard setter in the financial markets and in technology. Failing to pass clarity risks losing that leadership position, and it puts us in the country in a reactive posture where we are responding to regulations that are imported by other countries rather than exporting the standards that we want to set and have the world follow.
Excellent. Thank you. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
The gentleman yields back. Appreciate everybody's testimony today. Thank all of our witnesses. I also thank everybody from the House of Representatives. There's a lot of staff here from the Recording Institute and others who helped put this on. In 250 years of American history, this is the building where Congress first met in 1789 on Wall Street. And the United States has been the leader in financial innovation, and that has given the United States such amazing opportunities. We dominate the globe in the capital market space. This is our opportunity to seize the moment. A year to the day since the House of Representatives passed the Genius Act, which was signed into law a year ago tomorrow. This is our opportunity to finish the job and have clarity, which passed the House under the leadership of Chairman Hill a while ago, get all the way across the line to unleash further capital development here in the United States. So I thank all of our witnesses for being here today. Formally, I say, without objection, all members have 5 legislative days to submit additional materials to the witnesses, or in questions to the witnesses. Questions will be forwarded.
Okay, so that's the end of that. Just a bit of housekeeping going on there. They can submit questions. They're about to hit the hammer. So let me tell you just what's happened. Let me just pause that for a second. Let's go back. There we go. We can pause it there. Let me tell you what's just happened, and then I'm going to give you an opportunity to sign up to. I'm not going to tell you yet. Let me just tell you first what has just happened. So the momentum is real. And we are looking at a Senate vote as soon as, and most probably, next week. Next week, you guys need to make sure you're subscribed, because we are the real, honest channel here. The only one probably on YouTube. Maybe there's a couple, but I had a look through who was streaming this live today, and none of them seem to know what they're talking about. They're just there for random views and stupid price targets. We are the only channel, or one of the only channels, that will be broadcasting this in a fair way, with all the insights, all the tracking of the vote, as well as bring you the charts, the predictions, our thoughts. But again, we're not here to make money off views. We're here to make money from our investments. And again, that's why I'll be sharing with you where I'm buying XRP, my thoughts on it. And again, nothing crazy like $100, $1,000 XRP. If you believe that, unfortunately, you're going to be very disappointed in the upcoming bull market. If you have more realistic price targets, then you're going to be very happy with the gains. Anyway, this has been quite good. So the issue was Democrats didn't come, but it doesn't matter. Nothing actually in today's speech touched on the ethics language. That's why the Democrats don't want to vote for it. But all we actually need is about 7 or 8 or 9 Democrats to come over. So we are cautious. I am cautiously positive. I'm just worried about that. I do think we're going to get a vote. I think it's going to be very tight, and most likely it might not go through next week. But it is about a 50-50 in my opinion, which is very different to what the market pricing in of about a 20, 25, 30% chance. So the green lights from today are all 4 of the witnesses that we saw. They all actually back the bill. A unified, one-sided case and no industry dissent. So they're all backing the bill. So all those 4 witnesses we saw. The big one was Bullish said that Senate leaders are willing to align their bill with the House version, which lowers the risk of the text being reopened. So we got a bit of an insight from the Bullish chief legal officer, who actually told us they might go back to the House text, meaning they don't need to open up the text and do lots of different reiterations, which is bullish from Bullish. So there we go. Republicans are essentially spelling the finish. One member said, we're on, and this is a quote from this hearing we just heard, we are on the 1 yard line. We just got to score the touchdown. And then Bullish chief legal officer said the window of opportunity is next week. That's what we expect. What we expect to vote. So we are very confident here that next week we're going to get the vote. Now, whether or not that goes through is kind of a coin toss, in my opinion. This is the most important act. Remember this, the Clarity Act. This is the most important act for crypto ever. And this will give us the potentially the liquidity, the regulations that are needed to move to see high prices and to see the bull market really succeed. If we don't get it, then it's not the end of the world. However, if we do get it, it just lines everything up for a really good bull market. And I'll tell you my thoughts on the crypto on the XRP breakout and when that bull market is in a second. Before I go any further, let's do it now. So we run our very own newsletter on the channel. We don't take corporate sponsors. We don't sell ourselves out. We to individuals or sponsors that make us say certain things that many other channels do. We don't have any crypto leverage trading sponsors, because we know that if we start selling you that, whether you win or lose, we're going to make money on fees, and it's just not right, because you're most likely going to lose. 95% of leverage traders lose. So we don't do that either. We make money by investing, and we also don't have unrealistic price targets for our assets. You can look at what Martyn's done. He's been winning on his trades every single week. He is up, I think, he's outperforming the market to an extent of 4x. You can see the calls I've made on the channel and on the newsletter with regards to oil, XRP, Robinhood, Rocket Lab, Nvidia, all of these, which we just shared with you. So what I'm going to tell you is not just something that other YouTubers would be just trying to sell to make a quick dollar. I'm actually telling you something you can sign up to for free, and something that has all the perks. So listen carefully, because not many places, I don't think anyone will offer anything like this. We've got our very own newsletter. Every single trading morning, if you're a free subscriber, you get this as well. Every single trading morning, you get all the news that's important to anyone who's investing in the market put together in a very nice newsletter. Essentially, you get the top stories at a glance. There's no ads, no sponsorships. It's a very easy read. You can just click on the email, and within 2 minutes, you know exactly what's going on in the market and what's moving the market. You can read the one big thing. You'll see the fear and greed index. You'll see the number that matters, the winners and the losers, and why they're moving. Then you get those 5 things. Again, if you're interested in any of the stories, or if you want to read the whole thing, you can see what is going on in the market with just 2 paragraphs and then my thoughts. Then the next story, 2 paragraphs and then my thoughts. This is on the top 5 stories. Again, I've subscribed to about 10, 15 different news sources, and I did that even before I had the newsletter, because it's so important to understand what's going on in the market. But you don't actually need all of it. So I put together what you actually need, the 5 things, and then maybe a couple extra stories with 1 paragraph if you just want it on your radar. Then we have the deep dive section. In this one, we've got the SpaceX playbook. Again, we put out this playbook for SpaceX IPO. Again, it's not just crypto, it's stocks as well. We put out this SpaceX IPO playbook a couple days before the IPO itself. We put out this chart, and it's gone spot on. You can see the IPO price was 135. We said the open price would be around 160 to 180. It was. We said the peak would be around $220 in late June, mid July. It was. We said it's going to go below its IPO price. It is right now. And then again, we've got the rest is sort of for the future. Let's see if we're right about that as well. But we got it all spot on. And that's just one of the deep dives. Every single day, if it's worth it, we're doing a deep dive. If it's a CPI day, a day-to-day like PPI, CPI, we have all the charts, how I'm trading it, my thoughts on it. That's put in the deep dive section of the daily newsletter. And then you've got the chart of the day. Today we looked at silver. Again, remember we bought silver at $30. $25, took it up to $110. I told you the peak is $110. Now we're looking at re-entries at possibly $50. Again, we put these charts of the day in every single edition if there is a chart worth looking at. So that's just one of the perks of the newsletter. You can get the top part if you're a free subscriber. You can get the bottom part if you're a premium member. That's one perk. All the perks you get the XRP Weekly. Every Sunday we put out the XRP Weekly, which includes the XRP chart, what I'm looking at. Because right now it's very important to look at crypto again. The week ahead, which is your economic calendar, what's coming up. You get Sundays with Sensor, which is a live show plus a private event. I will be one-on-one with you guys, answering every single question, every single chart request, every single Sunday. You get the Discord channels. You get access to certain parts of Discord. You get private DMs with me. You can message me anytime. You get, and this is a big one, people charge thousands for this, hundreds for this, a chart training course. If you want to understand charts, if you understand technical analysis, you don't need to overcomplicate it. You don't need to spend thousands. It's part of the newsletter. 95% of people lose. How to be in the 5%. That is a 3-hour video. It doesn't need to be any more. It doesn't need to be any less. It's backed up by academic research, and it comes with 3 trading view indicators that I can add on your trading view for you. You get a net worth tracker and £5,000 portfolio challenge as well. All of this is part of the premium plan. Some of it you get for the free plan. There's no ads on either of them. So what am I going to do now? For the next 10 minutes, let me put this on the screen. Let's see if that's going to work. Is that going to work? 1 second. Let's change that to 55. 16. Let me just put this on the screen. Let's see if this works. Yeah, okay. There's going to be a 99% discount off your first month. Essentially a $1 deal. We did this last month and we did 100 in a day. There's only going to be 10. When I give you this link, it's going to go very fast. So there's going to be 10 only available. 99% discount. You get your first month for $1. You can then decide if you like it, you don't like it. Everything's open. You can decide to cancel it or not cancel it, but at least give it a go. And you can go and watch the whole chart training course if you like, but 99% discount for the first 10 people, or it ends in 7 minutes. Are you ready for the link? This is going to go very fast. I'm going to give it a second and then I'm going to give you the link so everyone has a fair chance of getting it. Let me see any other questions. I will answer everyone's questions in a second as well. The issue for XRP doesn't move like Bitcoin. Yes. I'm seeing if there's any other questions. Senate vote floor next week is what's next. Yes. What's next is Senate vote floor next week. In my opinion, that's very likely to happen. So 3, 2, 1. I'm going to give you the link now. There it is. You click on that link. Someone let me know if it works. I've just set it up now. I wasn't going to do it, but it turned out it's very likely we're going to get a vote next week. So I'm getting excited. But 10 people only. As soon as it goes past 10, we will shut it down. So click on that. It should take you there. And again, if you do want the free version, you can still click on it and just choose the free version. But let me know, is that applying the 99% discount for you guys, the $1 deal? How much after I missed it? You can see on it, you can either upgrade to the annual, which will be about 40-50% cheaper, or you can stay on the monthly. Once you click on the link, it'll tell you in your currency. It's about £30. I don't know, it'll tell you in your currency once you click on it. But again, you can choose to upgrade to the annual, which will make it about 50-60% cheaper, or you can choose to stay on the monthly, or you can decide to cancel it. It is up to you. But it's the first 10 people only, so you have to be very quick now. Let me see how quickly this is going. Last time we did 100 in a day. Let's see. Oh, there's only 8 left now, so that was very quick considering there's a delay on YouTube. So I'll leave that link in, and you've only got 5 minutes, so we'll shut it down in a second as well. So the link is in the live chat. Remember, you get all of these perks: the full morning forecast, the deep dives, the cheat sheets for CPIs, FOMCs, PCE events, all of that sort of stuff. XRP weekly every Sunday. You get to join Sundays with Sensei in a couple of days' time. Private event for you guys only. The economic calendar, the Discord channels, I'll onboard you there. You get to message me anytime as a private DM. You get the full chart training course, the 3 trading view indicators, the net worth tracker, the £5,000 portfolio scanner as well, all for essentially $1. So the link is in the live chat. We're about to wrap up the show as well. I've told you what's so important about this event and what's come out of this event. I actually might put it into a quick Discord post for the newsletter members as well, just so you know exactly what's happened. We have some key quotes as well. We saw Nova Labs, Aberg say, clarity is not a call for deregulation, it's a call for the right regulation. We saw the person from Bullish say, we are not asking to operate in the shadows, we are asking for a rule book. FTX happened offshore, making it clear to the people that are going to vote on this that clarity brings safety. We also saw Lavo from WisdomTree say, let me keep that on the screen there, from WisdomTree tell us that, what's the quote? Won't be focused on whether it's blockchain, but on the benefits. Can I move my assets seamlessly? Do I have transparency? Can I control my experience? Essentially telling people, just forget about the crypto aspect, answer these questions because this is what's important. The witness takeaway, so Nova Labs, the SEC sued them in January of 2025. Case dismissed with prejudice, living proof of the cost of no rules. We saw what happened to them. We saw what happened to Ripple as well. Bullish said it built offshore first. Now it's onshoring because it wants, it needs regulation before it really onshores in the US. WisdomTree said running tokenized funds 24/7 across multiple chains needs the law made permanent. So you can see the witnesses did a great job to explain why clarity needs to get passed. We will see if it does. The vote needs 60. Republicans are 53. So we need about seven Democrats to come over. Genius pulled 18 Democrats over last time round. Let's see if they can do the same with Clarity. It's a bit harder this time round, but they need less as well. So there is a chance, I would say, maybe slightly more unlikely than likely, but potentially a coin flip once we get the vote next week, in my opinion. So it does look like some time is being carved out next week. So the next few days, Senator Loomis says updated Senate text will land within days, so whether that's today or Monday. And then once that updated text lands, we will see if it has the ethics language in it. If it does, Democrats will come over. Also, next week is, and a quote from Senator Loomis, it says, I expect it will be that week. That is in regards to the week of the 20th of July. The Senate sits about 4 weeks straight, then it breaks into early August. So yeah, the point I'm making here is in August we're going to go into a big break. Then it likely slips into maybe a small chance of being in autumn, but most likely would have to wait for 2027, and then it depends how the midterms went. Trump is also keeping up the pressure and the text staying clean. And so yeah, it's essentially what I'm saying is keep watching how much pressure Trump is putting on. Let's see what the text says either today or Monday. And then next week, live on this show, we'll be covering the vote, because I think we are going to get a vote. We just don't know which way it goes. I'm quite confident we'll get a vote next week. So please do subscribe. And here we go. Once this timer ends, the XRP Breakout, I will actually save that for the Sunday show. Most of the newsletter members already know what I'm talking about. We put it into the XRP Weekly last week. It's a multi-year trend line. We are potentially at the end of the bear market, with maybe one last move towards the downside, but I wouldn't count on it. I am ready to start buying into XRP. In fact, I started buying XRP at $1 and $1.05. So we'll keep an eye on XRP Bitcoin, XRP Weekly on Sunday. But 1 minute to go. Let's see if there's any spots left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. One spot left. There is one spot, 1 minute. Who's going to be the last person to get the $1 deal? You can join me on Sunday. You can ask me your questions. You can see the XRP Weekly. I'll be putting out a trading post. You can go check out the chart training course. You can choose to stay on the monthly price or upgrade to annual or cancel. It is all in your control. And again, I think it's the best newsletter out there. So come and test it out. Let's see. And then if you guys have any suggestions, I think for the premium members of the newsletter, I've got a few XRP jumpers sent straight from the Ripple headquarters. One of them might be signed from Brad Garlinghouse, and I want to do a giveaway. Maybe it'll be for the newsletter premium members, or maybe for some of the members that joined today. So if you guys have any suggestions, let me know. There's 22 seconds left, and there's one spot left. Once it goes, it goes. So you guys, I think it's set to finish on the hour, but maybe the time is wrong. Anyway, you've got 10 seconds, I think, to sign up. Maybe a couple minutes more, but there's one spot left. And I wonder who will get the last spot. If not, it doesn't really matter. There's maybe it's delayed, because I'm sure last time we sold 100 in a day, so I think 10 has already happened. Anyway, thank you guys for tuning into the show. Is there any other questions? If you have any questions, quickly let me know in the chat. If you have just signed up to the newsletter, or if you are a subscriber to the newsletter, whether it's free or paid, firstly, thank you for being a newsletter supporter, whether you're free or paid. Obviously, the paid ones, thank you extra. Once you get an email from me, please do put it in your primary mailbox. What do I mean by that? I mean, Sensei, go on. What does that mean? What do you mean? Martyn just said, what do you mean? So I'm just getting a message from Martyn. I don't know what that means. Anyway, what I was saying is, if you're a newsletter member, which I know a lot of people here are, whether it's free or paid, if you see an email from me, make sure it's out the spam. Make sure it's out of all the other different AI categories that are in mailboxes now, whether it's promotions or not important or whatever. Find the email, take it out of spam, hold on to it. You can put it into a VIP email, or just move it into your primary mailbox. That way you make sure you can separate me from all the other junk emails out there. And remember, this is what was I going to say? This, yeah, essentially that's all you need to do. Just move it once, and then it always stays out of all the other different categories. In that first email, I'll explain how to get Discord access. Essentially, sign up to Discord, and if you're already on Discord, you just open a ticket and give me your email address. If you're not on Discord, you open an application, give me your email, and say you want to join for the Sensei channels, and then we'll onboard you for free. Okay, I think we got our 10. Did we get our 10? Let me refresh. Yes. Yep. Yeah, that's why it stopped. Did we? It says 9. I don't know what's going on. I'm pretty sure this just takes a second to refresh. So maybe there's one left. Maybe it doesn't let you because of the timer anymore. But if you want to give it a go, the link is in the live chat. Let me just put it in the live chat. There you go. I had all the time. It says human Liz. What do you mean? Human? Can I use it for Coca-Cola? What do you mean? Yeah, you guys can request stuff. So we are going to put out a helium thing now because it looked like a lot of people were interested in that. You can request certain stocks or crypto as a newsletter premium member. If I think it's beneficial for everyone, I will do that request as well. Premium news says knocking star. Oh, Lassa got it. And you've been a member for 2 months. Well done. Congratulations, you got it. Only 10 people managed to get it. So congratulations to you. If you're already on Discord, just open a ticket. If not, follow the instructions in that first email that will be sent out to you. Is there any other questions? I'm looking to see if there's any other questions before we end today's stream. So the hearing went well. Now we just need to wait for the final vote. Let's see, is there any other questions? Let me refresh it and bring it on the screen. Guys, do you have any final questions for the Q&A section? Or shall we? Just got some helium, says Stevie ZVCN. I mean, it is down like 99%. It's probably going to keep going down, but there is a chance that these levels are good, and I'll look into it. I talked to Permable. Oh, okay. No worries, Liz. You'll talk to Permable. Okay, I think that's it. We've answered everyone's questions. Next week is a big week, so if you are subscribed, just keep an eye out. I'll try and give out as much communication as you can, but if you see a stream like this that says live vote, make sure you tune in. You believe that the final bearish signal has been complete, but money believes a massive crash is coming. I'm not up to date with exactly what Martyn thinks about crypto right now. My thoughts are we are in the stage that we need to stop being super bearish. I turned bearish on Bitcoin at 120, the double top, and at XRP at 360, then again at 3, and then completely out $2.40. That's when I think it was worth being bearish, and I think it was worth being bearish for the last year, and I've got a lot of hate for that. But anyway, here we are. Now with XRP at $1 and Bitcoin around 60,000, I'm less bearish. I do think we'll have. I always said the second half of the midterm years is when the opportunity will come. Now we're here. Does that mean we can't go lower? No, I've got my limit order set up for $1, 90 cents, 80 cents. And also with Bitcoin at 60, 55. But I'm not expecting another 50% correction. Worst case scenario, XRP will go to 50 cents. And that's my last area I would sell some different assets to buy XRP. But in theory, if worst case scenario is 50% for XRP, I don't mind buying it. And if worst case is 25% for Bitcoin, in my opinion, I don't mind buying it. So I think we're at that stage of the bear market, where even DCAing, which I don't normally do, can be not a bad option. I don't like to be bearish when everyone else is bearish, especially when it link times when it links up with the 4-year cycle. I don't think anything's going to 0, and I don't think anything's going to 1,000,000. I've got a very level head when it comes to crypto, especially with all the experience I've had with bull markets and bear markets. And again, I'll share that. But again, it's not financial advice. Any other questions while we're here? Go to this screen here. Congratulations, Lalas. Thank you for signing up. I just got some helium, says CV, ZBCN. You believe that I've answered that. Dave says, did you comment on SBCX? It's in the deep dive. Go check out the deep dive today. I've just given you an update, the first time since the playbook. I've given you a full update on SBCX, which is SpaceX, and my thoughts on it. In fact, we're just following everything we said. But just an update for you there on SPCX in the deep dive of the newsletter. Do you believe we'll go into market crash? Yes, but most people will sell when it's too low and buy when and probably not buy back in. So for me, I always like being invested in the market, especially the stock market when it's low cost index funds, spread out, and then I buy stuff when they're down 10, 20%. I think the total market can drop maybe 20, 30%. Maybe the AI and some of the AI plays can drop maybe a bit more, 40%, 50%. All I'm using is the sensor indicators on the momentum band. That's probably where they're going to drop down to, maybe have another bounce, and then maybe enter a slight bear market. Again, I think in the next 6 to 12 months, we'll bottom out in the stock market as well. Crypto will probably bottom out first, and then we can go into a bull market in 2027, 2028. So do I believe a market crash? Yes, but I'm not expecting anything like an 80% crash. I'm not expecting anything like a carry trade unwind. I'm not expecting anything like a 50% correction. I just think a normal market correction of about 20% could be due in the next 6 months. And I do think some AI plays will put their tops in, just like I've said about Micron, SanDisk. I've been bullish on them for the last year, and I've said don't sell too early. But over the last month, I've said, okay, we are probably putting in a top. We're going to bounce the momentum band on the sensor indicator, have one final move up, just like silver did, 110, went down, went back up to $100, and then slowly entering a bear market and going into a deeper correction. I believe the same thing can happen. And again, with SpaceX, I do believe that can go lower as well. But there can certainly be bounces. We can certainly make money on bounces. And Martyn's done that very nicely on some of these stocks, catching the bounces even in a downtrend. So that's answered the questions there. You guys have, if you've signed up to, remember, you could have signed up for either $1 or the free newsletter. If there is any spaces, you can see on the link over here. I think I've answered all the questions. This stream is going to take you back to Martyn's thoughts on SpaceX, so I think that's good. Thank you everyone for tuning in. I'm so excited to bring you the full Clarity Act vote next week. I do have hope it is going to be next week. I do think we're going to get it. Just whether or not it's going to go through, it's going to be very tense. So I'll be prepared. I'll have some charts on the screen as well. I'll have a playbook. So if you've just signed up, I'm going to have a full playbook for the Clarity Act day as well. Everything I'm looking at, everything I'm watching, how I'm going to be looking at it. I'll probably be putting the XRP Bitcoin so on the main crypto charts as well as part of that playbook. So that would be very interesting. I look forward to that. Anyway, guys, enjoy your weekend. Go and watch the World Cup. What an awful day we had with England losing. That was very sad. Next will be Discord. So Martyn's going to be live on Discord. He's going to have a private event with the Discord members. You can join Discord for just a few dollars a month as well. Did I end the poll? Let me end the poll as well. Martyn's going to be starting on Discord shortly. So guys, go over to Discord straight away. See that. Will the Clarity Act pass this month? 59% of you said yes. 41% of you said no. It's now or never. So we'll find out. Until next time, as always, take care of yourselves and each other. Bye-bye.